Lay. What's up? Yeah. Yeah.
Kane is in the building.
Yeah. Alright, already the show goes on all night. Till the morning we dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they would see the sun? Just remember when you come up, the show goes on. Alright, already the show goes on all night. Till the morning we dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they would see the sun? Just remember when you come up, the show goes on.
Have you ever had the feeling that you was being had? Don't that shit that make you mad? They treat you like a slave, put chains all on your soul and put whips up on your back. They be lying through their teeth. Hope you slip.
What's up, everybody? Kevin Owens here, Overseas Famous. Today, we're What's up, Jehyve? How are you?
What's up? How you doing?
Good. How are you? What's
Doing
up?
good. Not much.
First, how's everything going over there?
You said what?
How's everything going over there?
It's going good. Everything's opening up. Everybody basically got their vaccines over here.
Yeah.
So it's starting to open up. Like I don't think we have to wear a mask anymore
Nice.
after Sunday. So it's been pretty good. It's getting warmer too. So the last stretch. I seen your tweet the other day. It's like the last couple of months. You like you trying to get back home.
Yeah.
But you gotta make a push for the playoffs. Yeah, I'm in that grind mode right now.
It's isn't it crazy? Like, I think that's like something that the mental toll it takes. I mean, like I always think about that, like as a fan of sport, or like as a Sixers fan, Phillies fan, Eagles fan, you're always just like, come on, like let's make that push. And no one really takes into account, like none of these dudes really live in this area. Like
Right.
they're doing stuff in this area, and then they're going back home. So they're kind of excited about going back home, but you have to keep that mentality of like, listen, I want to win a championship, then I'll go
Right.
back. Tough sometimes when especially when dudes who didn't make the playoffs are like, see ya, and you're like, shit.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. We've been here for like since August, so that's like 8-9 months. It takes a toll on you, but I'm locked in now though. It took me a little bit because this is the longest I played basketball basically. Like in college, like pretty much done in March. Last year with COVID, we got our season cut short, and I was kind of happy about that. I ain't gonna lie, but now it's like, all right, we're in the playoff contention. We like top 4 right now, so we just trying to make a run, and we got like a couple more regular season games and playoffs there. So I never played best of 5 either. Like I never did that, so it'll be a good experience.
Isn't it crazy? Like overseas, all of a sudden you're just like, it's like you're in that professional pro mode in the playoffs, and like college, it's like one and done. Like you got to win the game. Now it's like, all right, we lost. Let's regroup. We got some more.
My man said across the water, not it. That's what felt. Hey, we gotta do what we gotta do, bro. We gotta do what we gotta do. How's it been for you? What you been up to?
Good. I mean, it's crazy. Just living, being a retired player, kind of just going through and living your life. And but like we were saying, I mean, we talked about, like, you just put out the book Godfidence, and so cool. And there's like a lot of things. Even there it is. So like, it's super cool because I know we talked when you were still writing. And just like it's such a cool process, and there's like things that athletes. I think our stories are so interesting, and there's always that time that you have as an athlete, and we're also so committed. So when you actually write a book and sit down, it's a challenge. It is really hard to write a book, and I think people don't even understand how hard it is to write a book. So take us through your process, like from when you were like, you know what, I'm going to write this, to like the whole entire process that went with it.
Yeah, so I was going through a lot my first year. I got cut my first year. I was in Germany, and like I was just writing and journaling at first. So I'm just like, all right, let me try to get my emotions on paper. So I was overthinking everything, like, and like, am I good enough to play basketball? Like, so I was going through a transition, like going from college to the pros. So I feel like you said, a lot of people don't see that like introspective, like from the basketball, like from the athletics perspective. So I was like, yo, I'm sure a lot of people want to know how the process is going from college to the pros, especially being overseas. A lot of people don't know how the process is. So I was like, let me just write. I want to write a book because I always wanted to tell my story. So I think during that time was a perfect time for me to relay that moment, to reflect back in my childhood and all that other good stuff, to realize where I was going and, you know, what my life is going to like look like.
That's so.
And yeah, I think because like another thing is like a lot of people see us like, all right, you're athlete, like life is perfect. But I'm like, yo, nah, I'm a human being. Like I go through stuff just as much as y'all. So it's like I wanted to like get them a realistic like perspective on athlete's life.
That's super cool. I always think because mine was so similar because I started writing when I was in when I was waiting. I was in Kosovo, or before I even went to Kosovo, I was waiting because I tore my knee up. I went to New Zealand, and then I started waiting for a job, and I was like, this sucks. So I started kind of journaling my thoughts of like being a professional basketball player who's waiting for a job, and I got by a few publications because I was just talking about like telling stories from my past and stuff. And then I went to Estonia or Kosovo, and then I went to Estonia, and it was like I just was telling that story while I was playing it. And I think that's like such a unique perspective because I talked to like Rod Benson. Like there's so many guys who, you know, who have that or just like, you know what, I'm going to tell this story. Like, and I think there's so many people who could do it. They just don't even realize, like, hey, like that free time that you're just kind of sitting around, like, start jotting down, start video logging, start putting all that stuff in, because as you start going, like, that's where all my ideas came from. I was like, all right, I'm going to take this and I'm going to use this for this chapter, and I'm going to use this for this chapter, and it's just telling the story. And I think that's what makes it so cool is like we have this unique perspective, and like you said, everyone thinks it's so easy. And it's like the furthest thing from easy to play basketball overseas. They think it's like a dream life, and you're like, it's cool. Like, trust me, I'd rather be doing this than currently what I'm doing now. But I think there's just so much misconception about like how, you know, it's like this dream life, and you're like, man, there's a lot of stuff out there that no one knows that goes on overseas. It's like a lost thing.
Now you put me onto it. We call it the Wild Wild West. Like you never know. Like everything, like a lot of things are unexpected. Like whether you're getting your money on time or like that's stuff I didn't really dive deep into in my book. But like I feel like I'm sure like how was did you like put all the details of like like your
Well, that's the cool thing. I think like your book is so cool because your like struggles and stuff are so. It's like I would like to. I think of it like as like an emotional. Like you take you through the emotions, like the pressures and, you know, the things that you've gone through in your life and like how you've handled those and how that's made you the player you are. And I think that's super cool. And like that, it's like, I feel like I always say, I'm like, I want just every athlete to start writing stuff down because I think there's so many interesting stories. And that's why we started doing the podcast. And but your book is like so cool because it takes you through that journey. Mine is like it's like so cool because we tell the same story, but like mine is just holy shit, what in the world is overseas basketball? Like, there's all these weird things that happen, and I took it like that's what my story is like. Hey, and mine tells like I have an underlying theme of just like I'm just an unconfident kid. Who's really struggling with like, you know, like you said, like your story, you know, you get released and you're like, am I good enough? Am I constantly? And I always thought that like, am I good enough? Am I strong enough? Am I able to do this? And you kind of realize like at the end of the day, like, wow, you are like, I am. Like, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't. I think that's, again, another misconception. People think it's easy to play overseas. And I'm like, no.
And it's hard. It's hard because that mental and emotional, like the question that are you good enough is always going to be there, even however much you do on the court. Like it's always going to, like especially with the game of basketball, like, you're surrounded by like judgment, criticism all around. You just have to be immune to it to really believe in yourself and continue to do it. But it never leaves unless we really acknowledge it. That's why we try to like talk about in the book is like, I'm sure we all have phases of not feeling confident about our the things we are good at. So I think it relates to everybody. And I think, like you said before, I feel like we all got a story. So why not sit there and write it and take the time and like inspire the next person? Because as basketball players, we got a lot of fans. We got a lot of people that look up to us. So I think that was really my purpose in writing the book. Also, is like I got a lot of like younger guys looking up to me. So let me really like just put my story out there to inspire the next person and show them how I get through the process so their process can be easier.
I totally agree. It's crazy because I think about, I read, there's a guy, Paul Shirley. He wrote like 2 books. One was same thing. Like he played in the NBA, but then he played overseas, and he kind of talked about his, some of the funny things. And I remember reading that, and I was blogging at the time because I actually met him because I was blogging and he was blogging. So I met him, and he's like, it was like kind of the similar thing. Just like, I remember just like exchanging emails, and he's like, "Hey, just got everything down, like something funny, got it down." So he kind of inspired me to write, and I think that's what I'm hoping that you and I are able to, to future people, like write your stories, man. Like there's so, especially, I always said like there's so many stories. Like we were just talking, and we had a production meeting the other day, and we were talking about like future things. And like the Olympics, that's like another crazy thing. Like these dudes disappear for 4 years, and all of a sudden, boom, there they are, and they're everyone's favorite athlete. Like the Phelps, Carl Lewis, like these guys. You have no idea what those 4 years are doing between Olympics, and they're just training. And it's like such a crazy story. I always think about those guys. Like, what are they doing? What's happening there?
Take me through the process. I know you're with a publishing company, right?
Yeah, so it's crazy because I like the one thing that was hardest for me with the whole entire book. I wrote it. I have like severe ADHD, so it's like that was the hardest thing, me writing the book, because like my mind, I would sit there. I'm like a crazy person. Like I would sit there and have my phone, and something would pop in my head, and I'm like driving or something. I pick up my phone and record how I wanted to say it, because if it was not there, if I didn't put it down, like it's gone forever. Right. So that's my biggest thing, because it took me a while to kind of get it through, and then because of that, I would reread it 1,000 times and be like, no, it's not good. Like, and that's probably my confidence too. And then I'd be like, nope, and then I'd be like, someone finally said, just let it go, move on. So I started doing that, and that became a big thing. So publishing, it was a process. I mean, I'm going through, we sent it out to a bunch of different publications. Finally, this Dr. Cheryl Robinson, she writes for Forbes. She's an editor. She's like, I got you. So she kind of took it on. She's been like really working on like the content, and we like switched some things up, and now we just finished the editing process. So we just sent it out to, a bunch of different like sports publications and Yahoo, and like guys that I know who are now like bigger media people, and just being like, okay, let's blast it out. They'll read it, hopefully give me good feedback. So that's the process now. But that whole thing, I mean, especially being I haven't written for a blog in 10 years. And not having those connections, and just being like, I wrote a book. like publishers are like, cool. Like, I'm not going to read it because I don't know who you are. So I think that was the thing. How was yours?
It's different. I mean, I have a publishing company, Williams Commerce, and he helped me. Actually, like you, I remember sending my book to you. For helping me, go through it or not. But I started writing it. It took me like a year or whatever to write it, but like I got an editor, and then I got the publisher, and basically I did a double edit. So next time, I'm writing another book now, but so next time I wouldn't do that. So I just have a publisher, but it's easier. I don't think it's not a big publishing company, because I'm still self-published by so it's different. So he helped me. He put the book together. He formatted it, structured it, put it up on Amazon. Marketing. I think the difference between self-publishing and the publishing company is just the marketing. Like it's hard to market. Like, so you have people behind you marketing, I mean, he's done his due diligence to market mine, but it's not the same as like going through a big company.
Yeah. I think it's funny. I interviewed a guy. He went to, when I first got done playing, I was coaching, and I coached him and I trained him when he was, a kid. I was still blogging at the time, and he came up to me. He's like, "Hey, can you like show me how to do this stuff?" So I started working with him and like gave him, like, pointed him in the right direction. He started writing and journaling. He ended up writing for Sports Illustrated. He just released a book about like the tanking era, and it's like wild popular. Like, it's like blowing up because people want to hear that. So it's like super cool. And he was such a, like, he was a professional writer. So
Right.
he was Illustrated. So Triumph picked him up and was like, "Yep, like we're doing this because you have a name as a writer." And that's the hardest thing. Like, we have names as basketball players. So I just think as an athlete, you're always proving yourself. You always have to prove yourself time and time. And I look at even this process of writing a book, they're like, "You're an athlete." That's that same, like, stay in your lane bullshit that we've, dealt with.
Shut up and dribble.
But yeah, shut up and dribble. Like, don't need you to talk about this. We don't need you to just play your sport. And like, no, like, man, we're athletes, but like, we're human beings, and we do so many other things. And I think that was that's the one thing that I always kind of say, like, listen, there's so much talent outside of athletics in competition. There's so many guys who are capable of doing so many things. And I always said, like, even with a job, like, when you retire from basketball, I mean, especially overseas basketball, I mean, you're 15 years out from college.
Right.
It's like 15 years. You're competing with you're 38 years old, and you're competing with a guy who's just fresh out of college, who's going to be, knows what they're doing, has familiarity. And it's like, now what? So it's always that, like, listen, we played, like, we're capable, we work our asses off, like, we can get this done. And it's just lost on people. I feel like they're just like, nah, shut up and dribble. Like,
so if you do it again, would you do the publishing company again, or you would self-publish?
I would. So I'm in the same boat as you. Like, we're like small publishing company.
Oh, okay.
That's like doing it on Amazon. The one good thing I do have on my side is because the one guy that I know who's like I went through for this whole entire process, he is like a huge media guy. So he runs this Transition Entertainment. This guy Don Povia, and he has like connections with all these people. And he's the guy who actually got me started on writing, because when I started writing, he was the guy whose blog I put it up on. And now he's like really grown to prominence. So that was the one, ace I had in my sleeve, where I was like, okay, just get this to be the best it's possible. Here's the editor. Now we're going to do, the editor is putting it, like, we're putting it up as a publishing company, but like, same thing you were saying, like more self-published on Amazon.
Okay.
Like, hopefully his connects, sending it out to those people will like drum up some interest and stuff. And that's what I'm hoping, like, even just like for the business Overseas Famous, it will help like, because Jehyve, you're doing a like awesome job of like sending, blogging and throwing some stuff up there when you can. So I just think it's cool that we have like we can start kind of having this, like, what's the word, group of people who are sharing our stories and knowing that this is what's going on, and that we're not just, we're going to talk about everything. I think it's like, there's a lot of social issues, basketball issues, contractual issues. Like, I think it's just cool to have, a lot of different voices sharing, one space.
And I think it's helpful because people going into the process, they'll have like something to like read and like understand. Because I remember going into the overseas process, I'm like, I don't really know many guys that play overseas, so I'm like going into it blindly. Like, I'm getting a hit left and right. Like, nobody told me about this. So it's like, it's good for us. It's good. I see a lot of guys do, like you said, a lot of group of guys are just being able to express themselves, because like you said, they tell us to like be quiet and just do our job. But at the end of the day, we're human, and we have emotions. We have we have thoughts that have value, that people are willing to if they're willing to listen and help them out. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's just kind of getting, like you said, sharing that information. I totally see. I've been really getting into Twitter because overseas is so big over in Twitter, and there's like so many polls and things being done that I'm trying to interact with, because I think it's such a cool group of guys. And like we said, I always say it's like a fraternity. Like if you play basketball, like even the NBA, like you play in the NBA, it's a fraternity. If you play overseas, own fraternity, because like the guys in the NBA aren't dealing with the same stuff, and we're not dealing with the same stuff that they might be dealing with. But you know, it's the same court, same game, but it's just a whole different experience. And I love it.
They got a taste of it when they were in the bubble of how overseas life is. They got a taste of it, and that's what we do for 10 months.
Yeah.
Imagine. Yeah, it's different. It's different for the mental, because like you feel isolated. You feel like you're away from home. Like those are things I touched upon in my book, where I'm like, people don't understand the grind, like the mental like toughness you have to really even go through, because overseas is not for everybody. I would say that, like, you have to be built for it.
I totally, like you said, the bubble, like overseas is a bubble. Like no matter where you go, you're in a bubble. I mean, there's some experiences where it's awesome, but like, I mean, I've had experience. I played in South Korea, and it's like you no car, no nothing, we're just there, and there's nowhere you can go. You're just trapped. I thought that was just crazy. Guys didn't really understand, you know, that loss of all your, you know, abilities to just go and be overseas and enjoy it. It was just all gone. I think that was crazy. Yeah. So those experiences, I was like, man, like NBA, they got it good. They don't know what it.
We was quarantining before we started quarantining. That's what I would say.
That's a great way to put it. We are.
Yeah. When's your release date?
So it's gonna be I think it's gonna be like early July, like late June, early July. We're kind of locking down. I have a pre-orders coming out, pre-order date that we're gonna put up. I think we're gonna start pre-orders in 2 weeks. So that's like one thing that we're kind of working on. It's just like the same thing. Just we're sending it out, and you know, like with the Amazon, like they got to send it back to you and make sure that stuff's not messed up.
Right.
And you kind of like have to go through and check it all out. So we're you know, that's in the process, and I'm, you know, well, hopefully everything's perfect and then it could be released sooner. But it's just like you're kind of at the mercy of, you know, some of these other aspects.
Right. Did you get a proof copy yet?
No, that's what I'm waiting on mine now.
That's a different feeling, man. You get it in your hand, you see all the hard work. I don't think I rushed the process, but it was like waiting. I don't know how you're doing it, because your process is pretty long, but just waiting, like that was a hard process. Just waiting for everything to come to fruition. Like it was weird.
I totally agree. I think like I've gotten so used to it, because now the past year, it's been in so many hands that I'm like waiting on other people to be like, all right, what's happening? But I definitely. So I went to it's like crazy. We snuck into the Philadelphia airport. So it's like, I drove over on a Sunday with my photographer, and I was like, let's just pull up. We parked in short-term parking, and we just walked into international arrivals. No one there. So we just started going and snapping pictures away. I mean, I took my mask off and just started snapping, and the flight arrived, and we just kind of put them in the background. So we had all these pictures. But when that was like that first realization, I remember, you know, being finished the book the first time and being like, wow, I'm done. But then you're not done, because then their editor's like, nope, you're not done. Fix this. I'm like, shit. So that became a process. But I feel like that first, when they sent the cover to me and they're like, cover, I was like, oh shit, like this is real. And that was the first time I was kind of like, it like hit me. I was like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah. Are you planning to like do like usually when authors like write books, they start like going on podcasts and like talking and also doing the speaking engagement? Are you like looking forward to that?
Yeah, I know I've been kind of, you know, following your stuff. It's cool to see like all the articles that you're putting up. It's like sweet that that's like the coolest thing is like now you're in that process now of like yeah, I'm on this. You're kind of on that like release tour.
It's hard. I'm not big on marketing, but I'm like getting out of my comfort zone. Like doing
Yeah.
like different lives and stuff. Like I'm usually not like I'll post every now and again beforehand, but now that I feel like when you write a book now you have like a platform. Like people are looking forward to like what you're saying, what you're doing, and it's like a responsibility. I feel like now, so I try to keep people just continue to pour out the knowledge and wisdom I have, and just continue to tell my story and like let people in to see the life, because a lot of people look up to us. So it's like people want to see like how you're living and what you're doing. So I'm getting used to it. It's not easy to market, like, but
Yeah.
it's cool. Usually the people who market a lot are the ones that get a lot of sales. So it's like you gotta that's what you gotta do.
I think like that's because I feel like I'm very much like you. I'm kind of an introvert. Like a weird thing in my mind where I'm like, I want the glory, and I want I always wanted to win. I wanted the glory. I wanted the fans. I wanted like the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Like I wanted all that, but I didn't want to like have to be, outside my comfort zone to do so. So it was always, that was like, you want the reward, but like have to really, you got to be outgoing. And I feel like I'm a little outgoing, but I feel like I'm more of an introvert. And I don't like, especially with, you're so busy, and sometimes you just want to just be like, all right, I need to chill. And like, there's just no time to just kind of just be like, all right, let's just sit for a little bit. And I think that's my biggest thing. I'm just waiting for that time when I can kind of, get away. I have like my book, at the end in the epilogue, I talked about something that I'm going to write my next book about, which is like just, transitioning and stuff like that, from being an athlete to like just normal life.
Right.
And, like a lot of stories and stuff, and other guys are writing with it as well. So I'm kind of, as soon as this is kind of dies down, that's when I'm like, I'm going away to like a beach for like a month and just writing, and just no one, just being alone. I think that's like huge.
Yeah, there's always something to write about, man. I think I'm gonna drop this next book next year, and then I'll experience life more, continue to write, and see where it takes me. But like there's always something to write about. I journal. I think it's a good practice to just get it out of your system, because if you just keep it in your head, like it just like ruminating. Like you said, introverts, we overthink. We just sit in our thoughts, and especially being over here by yourself, like there's always something to write about. I would say, like if you, it's like a hobby for me now. Like I enjoy writing. Like I enjoy it, and now it's not like I got the validation that people like the way I write, but now it's like I enjoy it. I've always enjoyed it, but I didn't really think I was a good writer until like after I published a book. So now I can say I'm an author. And another thing I was going to touch on, there's so much reward of writing a book, is like it stays there for the rest of your life. Like I think that's the dopest thing. Like everybody's gonna refer back to me even long after I'm away. Like I don't have my words, so that's dope too.
It's so cool. I like thought about that. It was funny when I went and snuck into the Philadelphia airport and did the whole entire thing. That day I was like, I need a haircut. Like I need this, and like, why are you freaking out? I was like, this is gonna be there forever. Like literally, it's like, for all of time. I'm gonna be long gone, and my book is still gonna be there with my face on it. Put the best face you can out there.
Right.
So that was like,
I like the shirt you had about 6'10". That was fire.
It was funny. A friend of mine in high school gave that to me as like a graduation gift, because like all through high school I was like 6'9", 6'10". I mean, not all through high school, like I grew like my junior year, but like he got me a shirt that said about 6'10", because he would walk around with me and people would be like, how tall are you? How tall are you? And I think like he's like, this is great. So I actually was looking through my stuff, like old high school stuff, and like in my attic, and like pulled it out and like rock this again. So I wore it, and then the guy Don was like, dude, he's like, that's what you need to wear on the cover. I was like, all right, well, I'm not wearing this because it's like garbage, but I'll make a new shirt that's it.
Yeah. No, and I like the name Overseas Famous. That's a dope name.
Yeah, I think, it's like a process. I think like everything, like you said, it's just sometimes it just takes some time to like come up, and we like Overseas Famous, and like people are like, were you really famous overseas? Like if you walk, I was like, no, like no one knows who I am. Like there's like places where if I go, like in Cairns, Australia, like people would be like, "Oh my God, are you Kevin Owens? Like you played there?" Kind of like what they would say if like, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of like an average, like Keith Van Horn walked around like upper New Jersey up by the New York, and they were like, "Oh, are you like just kind of a player that was good, but like wasn't, the best in franchise history." So I feel like that's like the overseas famous is kind of like a play on like, listen, we're only famous overseas. Like I'm not famous. Go to Wegmans every day and people just like stare at me like, who is that? Like, do you play for the Sixers? I'm like, nope.
No. Nah, yeah, I feel that. Especially like we stick out over here, so it's like everybody knows us, and every country you go to, you're getting new fans. So it's real dope. The bright side of being overseas, that's definitely a positive. Like just being able to travel, meet new people, like it's definitely dope. It's positive and negatives to every situation.
I totally agree. This has been cool. I think we had talked. I saw you doing lives. I was like, let's hop on a live and just
for sure
for people to see and be like, hey, this is what happens. Like this is what athletics will take you. And now you have two guys talking about just like writing and being an author and showing like, hey, start like you were saying. I love that idea. Like take it, start journaling your stuff. Like think of something funny that happened and being like, pop it in and just start writing it. And even if there's like so many things, I always say like I'm taking voice notes. Like there's so many things you can do just to pop down your ideas. I know like Instagram and Twitter, like all these things, but there's so many good ways to kind of jot down those ideas and like share a funny story or share a crazy story. Just share like a personal story. And I think that like you were saying, being an author, that was another thing I was worried about. Like I let everyone in, and I've always kind of had like a wall, right? Like really let everyone in, and that's it's like nerve wracking at the same time as like liberating, freeing, yeah. And I think that's experience. Like so many people reading it so far, and they're like, oh, this is so crazy. Like I didn't know this, and it's like there's things that I like even like close friends, family didn't even know. So I was like, that's cool. That's what I like. I want to share these experiences that I might have never told anyone before. So it's cool. It's awesome.
Right.
Game today? That's awesome. I've been like following and stuff. It's cool to kind of get back. Like now that I know, you and like other guys that are playing overseas, it's cool to kind of get back in and be like, hey, like what's going on overseas and seeing scores and watching highlights and stuff. It's been fun to relive those experiences.
Nah, for sure. It's always good connecting with guys. And like you said, it turns into a fraternity. Like overseas guys, we all know the struggle and we can relate.
I totally agree. Jehyve, this is awesome.
Yeah, this is dope. I got to practice in a little bit, getting ready for it. But we can definitely do this again, especially when your book come out.
Absolutely.
I'll be following.
Cool. Well, have good practice. Enjoy this week, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Thanks.
All right. See you, Jehyve.
Who else really trying to with Hollywood Code? I'm with Marley G, bro, flying Holly Grove chicks to my Hollywood shows. And I wanna tell you something that you probably should know. This that Slumdog Millionaire Bollywood flow. And my real friends never hearing from me. Fake friends write the wrong answers on the mirror for me. That's why I pick and choose. I don't get you confused. I got a small circle. I'm not with different crews. We walk the same path, but got on different shoes. Live in the same building, but we got different views. I got a couple cars I never get to use. Don't like my women single. I like my chicks in twos. And these days, all the girls is down the road. I hit the strip club and all them bitches find a pole. Plus I've been sipping, so this shit is moving kinda slow. Just tell my girl to tell a friend that it's time to go. Now tell me how you love it. You know you at the top and all the heavens right above it. We own. It's Young Money, motherfucker.